Hey gang, I'm Paul with Stud Pack and welcome back to our channel and welcome back to the Stud Pack Dream House Build. It is just me and the boys, me, Jordan, and Rad, and we are building a dream house for Jordan. Not only are we DIYing it, it's the first house we've ever built and we're putting the whole thing on YouTube. Now our last two videos on this project was the in-the-wall toilet system over there in the bathroom and fixing these gable end walls. And those two videos did absolutely awesome. Thanks so much for all the love and the support. So if you're new to our channel, please hit that subscribe button and come along on our journey. Now the gable end wall kind of completed most of the interior framing. I say kind of because we have some exterior framing to do and we can't wait to get started on that. Follow me downstairs and we'll show you what we're up against. And today's the day we're gonna start working on the back deck, our balcony, our porch, whatever we're gonna call it. It's gonna be pretty epic back here. 4 posts holding up the ceiling, which is gonna be the floor for the second level. Sure, we're gonna have some fans, some epic lighting. It's gonna be a cool place to relax at the end of the day. But we gotta get this thing done quick because our doors and windows arrive next week. And we would love to be able to install these 3 right up here off the deck instead of off ladders and the scaffolding. Plus, we need room for our special guest who's showing up, who's gonna help us install the windows and the doors. So it's time to get to work. So where do we start? We have our post bases down here. We've got our post, our wedge anchors, our positive placement tool, so we can just start throwing some wood up on the building, right? Just like anything else we do on the Stud Pack channel, there are a ton of details we think about ahead of time before we start actually doing the work. Details like all the framing, right? Is it gonna go this way or is it gonna go this way? It matters in the direction of our decking. The decking is another thing we've been considering, as well as the drainage. Yep, deck drainage is a thing and we're gonna have it on this deck. Make sure you stay tuned. And we gotta figure out how we're gonna trim everything so it looks nice and tight. So you won't miss any details along the way. We're gonna show you all the whys behind all the decisions we make. But just like any other deck or balcony, it starts with a ledger attached to the building. Now our building is 28 feet, 5 inches wide, or 341 inches. Now our ledger is 334.5, and that measurement is critical to the success of this build. Now I could go into a 10-minute explanation of how we came up with that number now and bore you to death, or we could build everything and use the deck as a model and explain it to you in 1 minute. So that number is critical to the success or the failure of the balcony. So make sure you stay tuned and we're gonna explain to you in depth how we came up with that number. But for right now, let's go grab our ledgers, put them on the wall. All right guys, we're just marking a level line with our 8-foot level. And that's gonna be the top of our ledger. Now remember, we're gonna have a sliding patio door right here. So the top of our ledger is gonna be 1/2 inch below the floor. We already know that the threshold on our doors is 1 1/8 tall. So when we put our 1-inch material here in our finished floor inside, we'll have a very minimal step over that threshold, which is what we want. But in the end, the top of the deck will be below the top of the finished floor, which is what you always want. Or at least even, right?
Yeah.
All right, let's do one more mark and we're ready to put up this 2x12.
Right there.
Yeah. Pencil actually writes on the zip pretty good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
All right, everybody, as you can see, Rad is back. Welcome back, bud.
Yeah.
Glad to have you back on the crew. Now, we've just started 4 of these little green screws. That's just gonna help us get it in position so we can put it on the wall and get down off the ladder. We'll come back later with some structural screws after we put up the joist hangers, because it always happens, go ahead, Rad, that you have a structural screw in the way of the joist hanger nail, right? So we're gonna do it afterwards. And this guy's heavy. All right, we realized before we put this board up there that we're gonna cover up our wire. So we're gonna drill a hole in the ledger for our wire to pass through. Remember, that's for our lighting under the porch. Shouldn't take but a second. There we go. You know, I'm just saying, even with Rad here, it's gonna be tough for me to hold this up, pull the wire through, and connect it to the wall.
I'll head up there and feed it through.
I think I need you up there, yeah, all right.
All right. Ready when you are.
Ready, here we go.
Okay. All right, ready? We're all gonna lift? Okay, I'm good.
That's good. Okay, these two are good. So we picked the two best 2x12s for our ledger. The other one's dead straight. The second best one right here has a little bit of a bow. So we've got it on our line where Jordan is and right here. And then Rad's gonna try to pull it down. You're good there. Oh, you can move it, but you're also pulling it down here. See that?
Yeah.
That's weird.
All right, we're gonna get this figured out and then.
All right.
Yeah.
Be right back. All right, as you can see, we're a little higher than our line. So we're using our old trick, got a screw into the rim, crowbar on the screw, pushing down on the block, which pushes down on this 2x12 right to our line. Love it. See if that'll hold it, bud. Perfect. Came up a little. You want to put one more? Let's do one more.
Yeah.
Good? How's that? Perfect. Got it. Nice, guys.
Great job.
Nice job. All right, guys, both of our ledgers are installed temporarily. Now remember, the ledger is 3 1/4 inches from the corner of the building. I'm gonna back off 1/2 inch of that to get us to the edge of the slab. 1/2 inch for the thickness of our zip. Why am I worried about the slab? Because that's where I need to measure down here from. So I'm gonna go 2 3/4 from the inside of this flange right here to the edge of the slab. Perfect. And that's where we're gonna put our base. And we just decided on 2 1/2 inches from the back. Now this back isn't perfect, it's close, but we're gonna put this corner on, the far corner on, pull a dry line, and then install the 2 in between so they're perfectly straight. All right guys, here's the way this base works. It requires a 5/8 diameter wedge anchor, which we have right here, and it's gonna go in this hole. It's kind of shaped like a heart, so you can line it up. It gives you a little wiggle room so you can line it up exactly on your mark. We're gonna drive that in and tighten it, and this base or this cap covers it and your post sits on that. Now the worst thing you can do is run this nut down or not drive your hole deep enough, and now all that's sticking up above here and that won't go down. Now you're cutting a bolt inside of here. So we put some green frog tape on our drill bit to give us a little bit more depth than we need. What, about 1/2 inch? We're gonna blow it out anyway. Drill our hole, hammer that down all the way, give it a few turns, put our cap on, be ready for the next one. Brad, I think I'm gonna let you drill this hole. You ready, bud?
Oh yeah.
Ready to get back to work?
Oh yeah.
All right. Nice job, Brad. All right, we'll take you back. All right, we're gonna double check our measurement. Right on it. Not quite square. Nice. I'm gonna go a little bit towards me. Okay, we'll see what works in here. 15/16. Oh yeah, immediately getting tight. Nice. It's our first one, man.
Nice job.
We got a porch.
Beauty.
All right, let's do the other corner.
Sounds good.
What you doing? What is that?
I found the packaging. We don't need it. We have washers, huh?
Oh, actually, I forgot about that. I saw that, but you're supposed to use this washer. See,
Oh, gosh.
see how much bigger it is and how much thicker it is. My bad. It's been a while since I put one of these in. We'll get it. All right, gang, remember just a couple seconds ago at the corner behind me, I said you got to go deep enough with your bolt, or when you put this cover on, it's going to rock? Well, that's exactly what happened here. Our depth was fine, but what happens sometimes with these wedge anchors is you tighten the nut, it's drawing the bolt up. This part right here stays down, and the bottom of the bolt is tapered. It comes up inside there, inside that sleeve, expands that sleeve, and bites into the concrete. Ours just pulled up a little more than we wanted to before it bit, so the only solution is to grind that off. Got my grinder? It'll just take a second. Cool, now I certainly could have pulled out the recip, but I had my grinder handy, so that worked fine. There we go. All right, guys, let's pull our dry line, get those last two installed. All right, guys, we got our dry line right here attached to our two corner bases, giving us a reference for the middle two. And these sides are just kissing the string. And we didn't divide this into thirds. It's actually wider here in the middle than the two sides are apart. And that's because we wanted to have full access here to the garage door. If these would have been equal, this post, and this post would have been in the way of the door, and Jordan couldn't get his Mustang or his big old boat in the backyard, right? Full clearance to the garage door. So let's put these two in, and we're ready for some posts. All right, guys, all of our post bases are in, and they look great. So now it's time to set our posts. We have 4 6x6s, treated, of course, 12 feet long, and we're gonna put them on here, strap it into the side. Now remember, our slab is pitched away from the building. It is not level, so that means these are not level either. If I square cut the end of the post, it's gonna sit on the high side. We want full bearing, so it's as strong as possible. So I'm gonna measure that slope using the measure app on my phone. For me, I have it under utilities. I'm gonna tap on the measure app, swipe over for the level function, and there we go. Place it right on there, and it shows we're 1 degree out. So that's a simple matter of changing our bevel or our angle on our miter saw to 1 degree, cutting the bottom of the post. Is 1 degree gonna matter? I think it is in this case. You can see it with your eye, so I think it's much better to have full bearing on here than just on the edge. Let's head to the miter saw, cut those posts. All right, guys, so that is 1 degree to the right. Now, instead of spinning the whole board, we're simply gonna move the fence 1 degree to the left, right there. Flip this 180 degrees. Ready, Red?
Yep.
One more. Gonna move the saw. It's easier to move the saw than it is to move the 6x6. All right, Rad, do you a little, just a little. All right, here we go. Pretty good. And then, of course, I did mark the back side because now we have an angle on it. Got to have the back side towards the backyard. All right, Rad, let's go stand this one up, bud. Nice, guys. I think that's the hard part. Now we're going to plumb them, brace them, and cut them to length. All right, guys, to get these plumb, we made a bunch of stakes. I'm going to come back here. I'm just eyeballing that the edge of my stake is lined up with the edge of the post. I can probably push it in a little bit, Rad. Look at that.
Yeah, nice.
All right, go ahead, man.
That's some,
So we'll have 4 braces this way. And then, of course, we're going to have one over here. Got to have 2, right? Got to have it plumb this way, and you got to have it plumb this way. So we'll put a stake here. We could use the fence, but it's a little wobbly. So we'll put a stake here. On these middle ones, we're just going to brace these to these. Since this one will already be plumb, we just brace this one. So we just need 6 stakes, 6 braces, and a level. Let's get it, guys. I love that. Those are dead on, dead straight, dead plumb. Our next step is to cut them to length. And we did it this way just in case our slab is kind of doing this a little bit. So all we're gonna do, head over here on the ladder. Let me grab the level, I'll show you. We're gonna get our 8-foot level like this, put it on the bottom of the ledger, mark the post so it lines up with the bottom of the ledger, because we're gonna have a beam sitting on top of these posts. That's a 2x12 also. So when we grab our ladders, Red, mark all 4 posts, we'll cut them, put them back, put the screws in the bottom, and we're ready for our beam. Perfect.
all right, I got the level.
All right, we'll do all 4. Oh, I think I messed up, guys.
What?
That's what you get for working through lunch. I marked the bottom of the level on that one. I need to mark the top.
Oh, that's okay, we can measure this.
Good thing I caught it now. Oh, the post is too short. Hour drive for another one.
Yeah, that would be awful.
All right, guys, I was thinking we were going to take these down and cut them on the miter saw on my mark, but I got outvoted by Jordan and Rad. So I'm up on the ladder. I'm going to take my little baby circular saw, make 4 passes around, and there'll be a little square in the middle that we got to finish with the recip. But I got this.
All day.
All day. There's my mark right there.
Beauty.
Easy. And I'll work my way around that way. I'll use this curve as my starting point, and then hopefully, if I do it right, I'll end up on the other side.
We're trying to work smarter, not harder these days, Paul, like you taught us.
I have no response for that.
Nobody makes me bleed my own blood.
That's the best one.
Nice.
My nose itches. Timber!
Yeah.
Nice.
Look.
That middle one is like an inch. Just kidding. Perfect. All right, guys, our posts are cut. We got them installed on our bases. They're braced, plumb, level, square, all that good stuff. Our very next step is to put up our beam, which is going to help support our floor joist for our porch up there. And it's going to be 2x12, treated, and even our floor joists are going to be 2x12. Way overkill for this short 6-foot span, but we're going to show you why we're doing it that way a little bit later in the video. So all we got to do now is take some measurements, right? Now, just like when we do the blocking and we measure at the bottom of the wall in case the studs are doing this, we measure for our beam at the bottom of the post. I've already done that. I'm 103 from the outside of this one to the middle of this one, and I'm 103 on this side. Perfect, gang. So let's go inside, cut our 6 pieces, haul them up there. Building a deck.
Building a deck.
All right, guys, we're using an LPC6Z for our post caps. It's going to go just like this, one on each side of our beam. The Z at the end of that means it's Z Max. It's a coating that is specially made for contact with treated lumber. We're using our palm nailer because our positive placement tool only shoots a 2.5-inch nail, and I need 3s. One thing we're learning on this project, you need an arsenal of nail guns, right, guys? We need all different diameters of nails, and lengths of nails, and types of nails. So definitely on the house, we're gonna up our game on our nail gun arsenal. Let me put on my hearing protection, get this guy installed. All right, those are all done, at least half of them. These only work together in pairs. You gotta have one on this side and one on the other side. Our beams are already cut, let's throw them up here. Ready? Yep.
Another one in there?
Just go, stay.
All right.
Stay forever.
Perfect.
Cool, gang. You know what? I don't know if we'd be able to get a framing gun like that. It might be easier with this, right? Yeah. Some of these tight places. But that's our last nail in our beam on the outside. As you can see, we got one of our post caps on each side trapping the beam in place. So you kind of saw our process. We put up this outer 2x12 first, connected it to our post cap with an 1.5 inch Simpson screw, put the rest of them in, finished everything with 3-inch nails, then removed that little screw and replaced it with a nail. So we're all good to go. So our next step is to put up our joist. We're going to start with a double joist just like this on each end. All right guys, we're ready to start putting our joist in. Got a double joist here on each end. Couple details we want to go through. How are we going to attach a double joist to the end? We use a conventional hanger like this. This flange has nowhere to nail to. So you see a lot of times people will just hammer that over and put it into the end grain. That's not what you want to do. So we have a concealed flange hanger just like that. This one is also Z-Max coated. It's going to go there and carry the ends of our two 2x12s. And on this end, they're just going to sit on our post and we're going to toe screw it all together. I've already got my dimensions. We've already got them cut right there. So I'm going to put this up first and we'll slide these two in. And just to make sure, we put our level up there. Check it out. We are dead level, perfect, just like we wanted it. Some decks will have a slope. Ours won't need it for a reason we're going to show you later in another video. But let's talk about this beam right over Jordan's head. A lot of times, and we could have done this, the top of the beam could have been here, and our floor joist for our porch could have sat on top of it and cantilevered over. And that's exactly what we're going to do with the roof. But for the porch, we want it to bury the beam so it's nice and clean, and we don't have that beam that we have to trim around downstairs. All right, guys, let me get suited up. We'll put this on, start putting in our joist. Just going to use my big orange square to get the left-hand side of this hanger where it wants to be. Just like that, drive it home. All right, this one's installed, but you know what, guys? I was just thinking when I was nailing this in, wouldn't it be better if we zip tape this right now rather than wait until all our joists are in and then we got to work around all the joists? Yeah. This is just a nice clean border right here. We zip tape that, flash it, and then hang our joist. You with me? Zip tape. All right, guys, here's what we're doing. Any water that gets past our siding is going to come down this zip. It's going to hit this zip tape and come around our ledger instead of going behind the ledger where possibly it could not dry. We're just using this right here, this line, as our guide for the face, rolling it on the top and rolling it up our zip. We're almost halfway done. It's going pretty quick. What you need, Rad? You need the roller?
Yeah, I got the roller.
Roll the zip.
Yes, sir.
And we'll keep going. So we just folded this on top of our Advantech, and we'll seal this better when we get our door in here. But let's take it down to that end over here by Rad and show you a little lesson we learned, maybe a pro tip you can apply to your own building. So tell them what happened, Jordan.
Well, we never taped this joint right here because the door is going to go here and we weren't too worried about it. We did do the windows, of course, but we never did the door. We got like 3 huge rainstorms in a row, and the water, of course, went in this crack. Got our OSB wet, got the whole inside of the wall wet down where on the first floor of the garage, and we actually had to cut our zip tape and like drain it. So
yeah,
lesson learned, if you have any exposed joints facing upwards where water can get in and you're in the rough building stage, definitely try and cover them up if you're anticipating rain.
Yeah, it didn't rain for months here, and then
Yep.
2 showers really fast. All right, we're almost done. That's a sweet detail right there. Love that.
Could you cut it any tighter?
All right, we're on. A little easier.
There you go.
Could you use your shoulder to move the post out right there, Rad?
Yeah.
Nice.
Love it. All right, guys, the perimeter of our upstairs deck is all complete. Now it's just a matter of filling in with all of our joists, like 64 inches long each. I need 19 of them. Now, remember earlier in the video where we talked about the critical length of that ledger and how it's going to determine the success or the failure of our deck? Well, we're getting real close to showing you how we did the math to get the length to guarantee a success upstairs. Let's start cutting some joists. All right, guys, check out how cool this corner looks from up here. Everything's zip taped, so we're nice and sealed in. We got our concealed flange hanger right there. Everything flushes out right here. Now we're gonna have a border of our decking material. So in other words, we're gonna have a piece right here where my hand is, a miter at the post, and a piece along here. And all the boards in the field are gonna go this way. So we need something to nail those boards too. We got something for the border, but these are just gonna be hanging in the air. So we're gonna put a 2x4 on the flat. That's gonna give support for our trim piece on the edge and the tails of all our long pieces going out behind Jordan. So a 2x4 on the flat right there, and there's our first joist. So I'm gonna hold the tape. Jordan's gonna pull 16s all the way down. And what are we doing? Are we levitating up here? No, we set up the scaffolding. Tired of fighting those ladders. All right, bud, here we go. Are you gonna do it? Here, do it that way. 16.
We can get a bunch from the scaffolding.
Yeah, and if I can just hold it so it doesn't move.
Oh yeah.
That's a trick, a skill. All right, we got all our joists laid out, and while I was on the scaffold, I took a measurement for our length, 64 1/4. Let's head over here to our cut pile and see how many we can get out of one board. All right, can somebody pull out their phone, their calculator? It's Friday afternoon, I can't do this math in my head. 64.25 times 3. Should be 128, 120.
192 3/4.
All right, this board, what'd you say?
192 3/4.
Well, that's exactly what this board is, 16 footer, look at that. I can't believe that. It's never like that. All right, so I'll lay it out at 64 1/4. I'll split that line. We can get 3 out of each board. Looks like you're getting some money back, dude. Woo. All right, gang, there's all of our 4 joists pre-cut, and as you can see, Rad is holding them up. We are set to go. We're gonna work off the scaffold. We got our nail gun up here with 3-inch hot dip galvanized framing nails in it. We're gonna toe nail them in first.
Why are they galvanized?
Because it's treated lumber. Got to use hot dip. So we're gonna put them up there, toe nail them on our layout first, get them plumb, get the tops flush. Then we're gonna come back later and slide in our hangers. Remember with that detail I pointed out on the corner where the boards are different widths? This is key. We're gonna get the tops flush so our deck is nice and flat, then slide our hangers on. Especially bad with treated, right? All right, let's set up on the scaffold, guys. That friction fit, huh? You just had to put 2, Dad, didn't you? That's what you were thinking. Perfect. Where's my rafter hook? You know I bought one, it wouldn't fit this thing. Now I need it. All right, let's get all these tacked up. Should be able to fly. Oh man, this is tight. I gotta suck it in. Sweet. How you doing, bud?
Good, thanks.
All right, guys, all our joists are in temporarily with a toenail. That way we got them dialed into our layout. Now we're gonna permanently install them with an LUS 210Z. I squeeze a little bit. I'm gonna slide it up, hit in the prongs up here. That'll hold it. Now we'll get our positive placement gun. Boom, boom, boom. Easy. Beautiful. Well, I missed one over here. All right, guys, now we gotta do that like 150 more times. But this positive placement gun is totally awesome. Sure appreciate you, the guy that sent that to us. And we are gonna come back and use a longer nail here. Really neat. Remember what we said earlier? We gotta have multiple nail guns. So shooting a 2.5 there, we're gonna put 3s there with the palm nailer, but we only have 1 compressor, 1 hose. So we're gonna shoot all those with the positive placement, put the palm nailer on there, come back, hit all those, and we're done. Probably got about 45 minutes to an hour of nailing coming up. Let's do it. My arms. Check it out, guys. The first floor framing for our backyard deck is all complete. It looks good and it feels good. But it is 5:30 on Friday afternoon and we got to get this thing finished for tomorrow. So we're going to power through it. Our next step is to attach the ledger properly and permanently to the building. Remember, we just used some of those 3-inch deck screws to hold it there, but now we're going to replace those with structural screws. The reason we didn't use the structural screws first is because inevitably I'm going to hit them with the nails when we put up the joist hangers. Look how big the head is on that. So we're going to get somebody up on the scaffold. Hopefully it's not me, because I just got down, and we're just going to roll them along. They're going to drive them in.
Good.
Yep. Want to put it in the end? Wow, gang, check that out. Doesn't that look great? I am so happy with the way that turned out. As I sight down everything, everything's parallel, everything's square. The ledger's all flashed in. Love the way our second floor deck turned out. Remember, we're not finished yet. We're gonna keep going higher. That seems to be the theme of this entire project, right? One level's not enough, we gotta keep going. There's gonna be another level on top, plus our shed roof tucked up under the eave on our roof way up there. But before we even cut the first board for this deck or drove the first nail or screw, there was a couple of things we were pretty worried about. The first one was all the trim details. You check it out right here. This deck is going to be wrapped in fascia right here, which is going to die into the building. It's going to die into the corner board. What's a corner board? Well, we got one right here on Jordan's house. It's kind of like a corner board. Ours will be a little better than that, but that's what it does. And as you can see, the siding dives into it, or in this case, it dives underneath it. We're going to have a corner board just like that right here. Siding's going to die into it. And now our deck trim can die into it. So that's going to work out perfectly. The other thing we were worried about was our deck drainage system. That's right, we're gonna have deck drainage on this bad boy right here for a few reasons. Number one, any water that comes through our deck boards, we didn't want it coming down here and getting all this wood wet. Yeah, it is treated, but we want to get the water away from the building, so it's gonna drain into a gutter, in a downspout, out to the side, and getting that water away from our deck. So the second reason, we didn't want all the water coming in between our slats up there and raining down here, making those lines in our slab and splashing on our building and on our posts and potentially shortening the life of the wood down here. The third reason was we're going to cover all this underneath. So when you come outside, it looks all finished. We haven't picked out that material yet, but whatever it's going to be, we certainly don't want water raining down on it from above. So we're going to capture the water and send it out of here in a gutter, just like I mentioned before. Now, our deck drainage system requires the framing to be 16 on center or 12, or you could do a combination, but we're going to go with all 16-inch on center. So we had to make sure that every joist bay was 14.5 inches between our joists. Typically what happens, you're going to start on one end, pull your tape, go 16, 32, whatever, 48, all the way down the line, and by the time you get to the end, it's going to be a little different width, right? It's not going to be perfectly even. We didn't want that because we wanted to capture the water the entire width of the deck. So before we cut that first board or drove that first screw, we had to know how many full 16-inch on center joist bays we could get up there and not exceed the width of our building. So what do we know? Well, we know the width of our building. It's 340 inches wide. And we know our deck wants to be less than 340, so we're not sticking out past, just like I showed you with this detail right there. So what do we know about our deck? Well, we know we're going to have a little detail on the end here. Actually do it for you on our foam board. And we're going to border our deck. Imagine these are our deck boards. We're going to have a mitered corner. This board will cover the ends of all these. But these guys right here, they need support. Our 2x12s are buried under here. So we're going to have a 2x4 on the flat. And then supporting the other edge of that 2x4, another 2x12. And we built that right here. Here's our two 2x12s on the end. 2x4 on the flat, we'll put that in later, and another 2x12. All that together is 8 inches. What else do we know? Well, we know the width between our joists is 14.5, and we know the width of each joist is 1.5. Now we have all the information we need to figure out the math to let us know how many joists we're going to put in there and how many full joist bays we're going to have. And that is exactly what we have to find, the number of joist bays. Now, I'm sure there's an app for that, but do the math yourself and make your high school math teacher proud of you again. So come on over here. We've got X is what we're trying to find, is the number of joist bays. And here's our formula. I know it looks complicated, but it's really simple. Don't click off yet. This will just take me 1 minute. So we know we've got 8 inches there, 8 inches there, added together. That's our 16 inches right there. What's our next number? Well, let's call it the airspace. Let's call it the air that is between our joists. That air takes up 14.5 inches here, but what we don't know is how many of those we have. So that's going to be X, the number of our joist bays. 14.5 X is going to give us the dimension of all that airspace. Now we need to take account the amount of wood space. The wood, the joist, is 1.5 inches wide. How many of them are there? Well, there's going to be one less than the number of bays, right? If I have a stairway and I've got 20 posts, that's going to divide that space into 21 spaces. So there's always one less. So that's why I have X minus 1, and that is multiplied by the width of our joist, 1.5. And then all of that needs to be less than or equal to 340 inches, the width of our building. So let's do a little high school math. We got our 16, our 14.5 X, but we got to take care of this guy. Simple multiplication. 1.5 times X is 1.5 X. 1.5 times the negative 1 is negative 1.5. Let's take our 16 minus 1.5, 14.5. Let's take our 14.5 X and our 1.5 X and combine them together, 16.5 X. Very next step, we got to get rid of 14.5 X, so we're going to subtract it from both sides. We're left with 16X, and that is going to be less than or equal to 325.5 inches. Now we divide each side by 16, so X is going to be less than or equal to 20.34 ... We don't want 0.34 ... of a joist bay, so we're going to round down. X equals 20, what? 20 joist bays. We did it. Hey, you in the back row, are you still paying attention? Wake up. So now that we know we have 20 joist bays, we have 19 joists, right? This was our joist number, 20 minus 1, 19 joists. Let's plug 20 back into the formula and get the length of our ledger board. 16 inches, 16 inches. 14.5 times 20 is 290. If you plug in 20 here, 20 minus 1 is 19. 19 times 1.5, 28.5. Add those up together, 334.5. Remember the width of our building? 340. We're under it. I'm liking it a lot. 340 minus 334.5, 5.5 inches. We want the equal spacing on each side. Last step, here we go. Divided by 2, 2.75 inches. Check it out. I'm going to come in over here around Jordan. 2.75 inches is the distance between the corner of our building and the end of our ledger.
And we did that before we ever did anything.
The very first step.
Yeah.
And this was the length of our ledger. We put up a 16-footer, measured to our mark, cut it, and we knew everything was going to work out perfect in the end, and it did. All right, for all those who made it through the math section and didn't click off, we're going to reward you by showing you 2 awesome deck products that we didn't use on our build, but they can make a huge difference on the way you build your deck. Now remember in the video, we flashed our ledger to the building. A lot of times you can't do that, especially if you're adding a deck to an existing building. So these deck to wall spacers right here, they're made to go between your building and your ledger, and they create an airspace so the building can dry and the ledger won't rot. There's a hole here for threaded rod, and also these holes to screw it to the building to temporarily connect it. The other product is this Simpson product, a DTT2Z. The way these work, they're made to screw to the joist. There's another one inside on the joist for your building. Then 1/2-inch threaded rod goes through this hole with a nut on each side, pulling your deck to your building so it won't fall off. 2 great products. Check them out if you've never seen them. Wow, gang, that was a lot. That was a ton of information. Originally, we were going to have one video on the entire build, from the slab all the way up to the roof. But in true stud pack fashion, we quickly realized we got so much information in this video, we're going to go ahead and publish it, and there'll be a follow-up video on everything up above. So get a massive 6x6 post, support your like button, smash it for us. If you're not a subscriber already, please do that. Ring the bell so you get notifications of our future videos on this build. Head on over to Instagram. If you have that app, check us out at StudPackOfficial. And we'll see you on the very next video. who knows what we'll be doing.